I built a multimillion-dollar company in secret, and then my family came asking for help. The annual family gathering was just as stifling as I remembered. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead in my aunt's lavish mansion, reflecting off designer dresses and ridiculously expensive watches. The air was thick with a blend of luxury perfume and that particular brand of superiority my relatives always carried with them. I stood off to the side, watching my cousins compete for attention with tales of their latest achievements. My simple black dress, carefully chosen to blend into the background, felt like armor against their judgment. "Daniela," my Aunt Claudia's voice sliced through the chatter. "Didn't even see you there. Still working as a secretary, dear?" I took a small sip of champagne, hiding a smirk behind the glass. "Administrative assistant, actually." She raised a perfectly arched eyebrow. "Still at that little consulting company? What was it called again?" "Horizon Solutions," I said quietly. My cousin Raphael, recently promoted to partner at his father's law firm, couldn't help but chime in. "Come on, Danny. I could hook you up with a real job, something with an actual career path." I thought of the stack of contracts waiting for my signature in my actual office. Not the tiny decoy one I maintained for appearances. "I'm happy where I am, thanks." "Happy?" Claudia let out a laugh sharp enough to cut glass. "Darling, you're wasting your potential. Your cousins are all executives, partners, real entrepreneurs. And you're still pushing paper for someone else." If only they knew. The truth? I was the one in charge. My journey to building an empire in secret had started 10 years ago in that very house. Fresh out of business school with an MBA and a revolutionary idea for turning around failing companies, I had high hopes my family connections would help launch my career. Instead, they laughed. "Consulting?" Uncle Fernando scoffed. "Leave that to the big firms, sweetheart. Join the family business. Start in the warehouse, work your way up, like everyone else." Everyone else, of course, meant my male cousins. Success in our family had a very specific and rigid definition. They'd built their fortune through a web of companies, each one led by a carefully selected male heir. Women were expected to marry well or settle for subordinate roles. Nothing more. That night, I made 2 decisions. First, I would build my own company, without their help or knowledge. Second, I would make them regret every word of dismissal. Horizon Solutions was born in a tiny room above a Chinese restaurant. My savings barely covered the rent, but I had something more valuable, a deep understanding of how businesses worked, how they failed, and most importantly, how to save them. My first client was a struggling factory. Every major consulting firm had turned them down. I spent 3 months overhauling operations, optimizing processes, and negotiating with creditors. 6 months later, they were turning a profit again. Word quietly spread through the business community about the mysterious firm that rescued companies from the brink. I hired carefully, choosing people who shared my vision and my discretion. Every employee signed ironclad NDAs. My name never appeared on any public record. I was simply the CEO. As Horizon Solutions grew, I maintained my disguise as a low-level admin. Even after we moved into a sleek downtown office, I kept the tiny space above the restaurant and used it as my public cover. When family asked about my job, I described tedious admin work and watched their eyes glaze over. The lie wasn't just pride, it was strategy. My family made their money acquiring weakened companies for cheap. My firm specialized in saving exactly those kinds of businesses, before they became vulnerable. We operated in the shadows, quietly sabotaging their predatory practices while building our own success. 10 years later, Horizon Solutions had become one of the most influential consulting firms in the industry. We had offices in 12 cities, clients from the Fortune 500, and a reputation for turning failing companies into shining examples of success. And not one of my snobbish relatives had a clue. "More champagne, dear?" Claudia's voice snapped me back to the present. "Or maybe stick to water. Can't imagine your salary leaves much room for expensive tastes." I accepted the champagne with a practiced smile. "Thanks, Aunt Claudia. How's Uncle Fernando's latest acquisition? Wasn't it William Industries?" Her smile wavered just slightly. "There've been complications. Nothing Fernando can't handle, of course." What she didn't know was that I caused those complications. William Industries had been the target of a hostile takeover by my uncle. They'd reached out to Horizon Solutions 3 months earlier, desperate for help. Now, they were deep into our restructuring plan. Their stock was climbing, and the takeover attempt was crumbling. "I heard they hired a consulting firm," Raphael added. "Probably wasting their money. Those firms are all the same. Promise everything, deliver nothing." I held back another smile. Horizon's fee for saving William Industries was more than Raphael would earn in 5 years. "What was it called again? Horizon something?" he asked, waving his hand dismissively. "My dad says the CEO doesn't even show up. Probably some rich kid playing at business." My phone buzzed silently in my bag. A message from my actual assistant. "Urgent meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Wilson Ventures reps want to discuss merger with William Industries. Need your response ASAP." I read it twice, letting it sink in. They were admitting defeat. After failing to take over William, they were now seeking a merger. A merger that required approval from William's consultants, me. The next morning, my family would walk into a meeting thinking they were about to force a merger. Instead, they'd be sitting across from the secretary they'd dismissed for a decade. Only this time, I wouldn't be bringing the coffee, I'd be sitting at the head of the table. "Everything okay, dear?" Aunt Claudia asked, noticing my expression. I finished my champagne and gave her my best smile. "Perfect, actually. I should head home early. Big meeting tomorrow." "Oh? Taking notes for someone important?" "Something like that," I said, already imagining what I'd wear. The next day, I took the private elevator to Horizon's executive floor. The plain black dress was gone, replaced by a navy blue tailored suit, a power color for a power move. My assistant Maya greeted me with a tablet and a knowing smile. "Wilson Ventures team arrived early. Your uncle seems very eager to meet Horizon's CEO." "I bet he is," I said, checking my reflection. "They're in the main boardroom," Maya continued. "Mr. Harrison from William is already there, and your cousin Raphael insisted on handling the legal side personally." I smiled, remembering his condescending job offer the day before. "Anyone else from the family?" "Your Aunt Claudia's here for moral support, even though she's not technically part of the deal. And Joao is representing Wilson's finance side." "A perfect audience. Has the coffee been served?" "Your aunt complained no one brought it. I told her the admin assistant would be along shortly." I nearly laughed. For 10 years, I'd played the invisible employee every time family visited. No one ever noticed the quiet woman bringing coffee or collecting coats. It was the perfect camouflage. "Give me 2 minutes," I said. "Then bring in the contracts." Through the doors, I could hear their voices. My uncle's commanding tone. Claudia's sharp laugh. Raphael's smug comments. I took a deep breath and stepped in. Silence fell instantly. Uncle Fernando sat at the end of the table, clearly assuming leadership. Raphael and Joao flanked him in expensive suits that screamed inherited wealth. Claudia lounged in the back, inspecting her nails with exaggerated boredom. Mr. Harrison sat alone on the opposite side, visibly uncomfortable. We're still waiting for coffee, Claudia said, looking up, then pausing. Daniela? What are you wearing? Where's the tray? I calmly walked to the head of the table, directly opposite Uncle Fernando. I don't serve coffee anymore, Aunt Claudia. In fact, I never really did. What is this? Fernando barked. Where's Horizon's CEO? We demanded to meet the decision-maker. You're having that meeting, I said, taking my seat and savoring their stunned faces. I'm the CEO of Horizon Solutions. I've been running this company for 10 years. The silence was absolute. Raphael's mouth opened and closed like a fish. João dropped his pen. Claudia's perfect posture finally faltered. But Fernando recovered first, face turning red. Ridiculous. You're a secretary. That was a front. A very effective one, apparently, I said. None of you ever looked beyond it. You were so sure I'd never succeed, you didn't even notice I already had. Just then, Maya entered with a stack of contracts, distributing them with quiet efficiency. These documents, I continued, outline the terms under which Horizon Solutions will consider approving a merger between Wilson Ventures and William Industries. Consider approving? Raphael choked. This is a joke, some elaborate prank. I pulled up Horizon's latest financial reports on the screen. We currently manage over $12 billion in client assets. Our restructuring success rate is 94%. And our approval is required for any significant changes at William Industries. I looked at their stunned faces. Still think this is a joke? This is impossible, Claudia whispered. You're nobody. You've always been nobody. Exactly what I wanted you to think. I turned to Mr. Harrison. Would you like to explain to my family why you chose Horizon over Wilson Ventures? He sat up straighter. Horizon's reputation is unmatched. When Wilson tried their hostile takeover, your restructuring plan saved our company. Our profits have increased by 47% since we started following your strategies, said the William Industries representative. João looked like he was about to faint. The restructuring plan that ruined our acquisition attempt. Was you? Among others, I replied, ticking names off on my fingers. Peters Electronics, which you tried to buy last year. Maritime Shipping, whose acquisition you lost last quarter. The Davidson Group, which made a miraculous recovery right before you could close the deal. I leaned forward. For 10 years, I've been quietly sabotaging every predatory acquisition attempt your company made. Uncle Fernando's face turned a dangerous shade of purple. You deliberately sabotaged family business? No, I corrected him calmly. I built my own business, one that helps companies survive, instead of tearing them apart piece by piece. The fact that it interfered with your plans? Just karmic bonus. This is outrageous. Raphael shouted, jumping to his feet. I'm calling our lawyers. Sit down, Raphael. My voice carried a sharp authority that made him freeze. Maybe read the contracts sitting right in front of you, the ones your firm spent months trying to obtain just to schedule this meeting. I saw realization dawn on his face. That's right. Your firm's biggest client this year was me. Maya stepped forward with another document. This is a summary of Horizon Solutions' current market position, including liquid assets. As you can see, we now have the financial capacity to acquire a majority stake in Wilson Ventures, if we choose to. The room erupted. Aunt Claudia nearly panicked. João was frantically typing on his phone, checking numbers. Raphael collapsed into his chair, speechless. This is blackmail, Fernando growled. No, I said, calm and firm. This is business. The kind you taught me I'd never be capable of handling. I stood, straightening my blazer. You have until 5 p.m. today to review the merger terms. They're more than fair. Consider carefully. If you refuse, Horizon Solutions will begin acquiring Wilson Ventures stock on the open market tomorrow morning. As I walked toward the door, I paused. Oh, and Aunt Claudia, the champagne you so generously offered me last night? I own the vineyard that produces it. Bought it last year. The coffee you requested this morning? That chain is mine too. I smiled sweetly. Seems my salary does cover expensive tastes. The door closed behind me. In the peace of my private office, I finally allowed myself to breathe. 10 years of careful strategy, of pretending to be the dull assistant, had all led to this. Maya came in with a real cup of coffee. My favorite blend, from my own chain of cafes. Was it worth the wait? She asked. I thought about all the times I'd served coffee in that same office while my family ignored me, underestimated me, dismissed me as just a secretary. Every second, I said. My phone buzzed. Messages from family members were already pouring in, no doubt reacting to the meeting. I muted it without reading a single one. They'd have plenty of time to adjust to the new reality. I had an empire to run, and for the first time in 10 years, I could do it without hiding who I really was. The hours that followed went exactly as you'd expect when a family built on power and appearances realizes they're no longer at the top of the food chain. The messages started coming in right after the meeting. Claudia, darling, let's talk over lunch. You've always been my favorite niece. Raphael, Danny, we were just joking. Family sticks together, right? Joao, you can't do this to us. We're blood. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on urgent emails from the Wilson Ventures board. They weren't fools. They knew which way the wind was blowing. By noon, they'd called an emergency meeting. By 3 p.m., they had voted to accept the merger terms with Horizon Solutions. Uncle Fernando, of course, didn't take it quietly. You betrayed this family, he thundered, barging into my office unannounced. Maya rose to stop him, but I waved her off. Let him speak, I said, not even looking up from my screen. I guess I learned that from the family, I said coolly. Isn't that what you always taught? Take power. Eliminate competition. Never show weakness. We gave you everything, he shouted. I laughed. You gave me nothing. Less than nothing. You taught me I'd never be good enough. That my only value was in supporting the men in the family. So I built something better, while fooling every single one of you for a decade. He spat on the floor in anger. I finally looked at him. I didn't fool you. You fooled yourselves. You saw what you wanted to see, a quiet woman who knew her place. That was your mistake. Not mine. The energy drained from him all at once. He slumped into a visitor's chair, suddenly looking older than I'd ever seen him. Why reveal yourself now? He asked. You could have kept working in secret. Because it's time, I said, closing my laptop. William Industries isn't the only company you're trying to buy. Atomp Electronics. Maritime Solutions. At least 3 other businesses, good people, solid products, just needing a little help to thrive. I'm tired of watching you tear them apart. It's just business, he mumbled weakly. No. It's greed. And it ends now. I handed him a folder. These are the final merger terms. Horizon Solutions will acquire majority control of Wilson Ventures. We'll restructure the company with a focus on building strong businesses, not dismantling them. You may stay on as a consultant if you accept the new direction. Otherwise, your golden parachute is outlined on page 3. His hands shook as he opened the folder. You thought of everything. I learned from the best, I replied with a cold smile. Just, not in the way you expected. After he left, Maya entered with a stack of newspapers. Horizon's CEO revealed how one woman built $1 billion empire in secret. Wilson family shocked by hidden success. This time, my phone buzzed with a message that mattered. It was from my mother. She'd divorced Fernando's brother years ago and cut ties with the toxic Wilson family. She wrote only one sentence. "I always knew you'd show them." The following weeks were a whirlwind of change. The Wilson Ventures board fully embraced Horizon's new direction. The company's stock rose 40% after the merger announcement. Companies that once feared the Wilson name now sought partnerships. The press couldn't get enough of the story. Aunt Claudia tried to spin it into a feel-good family success tale. "We always knew Daniela had potential," she told a reporter. "This just proves the Wilson entrepreneurial spirit runs in our blood." I responded by releasing footage from last year's family reunion. 20 minutes of her explaining why I'd never amount to anything. The video went viral. Claudia stopped giving interviews after that. Raphael tried his own spin, claiming he'd always known and was part of the plan. Unfortunately for him, everyone had seen his stunned face at the meeting. Clients at his father's law firm began to question his judgment. Within a month, he was quietly removed from his position. João adapted the fastest. 2 weeks after the reveal, he invited me to an awkward lunch with a proposal. "Together, we could dominate the market," he said. "Wilson Horizon would be unstoppable." "Horizon isn't about domination," I replied. "It's about elevation." But the real change came in the quiet moments. The young intern who tearfully thanked me for proving you can succeed without compromising your values. The female executives who reached out to share how they too had been underestimated. The business schools that invited me to speak about building ethical success in a ruthless world. 3 months after my reveal, I stepped onto a stage to receive a Business Innovation Award. From the stage, I saw my mother in the front row, her face glowing with pride. Behind her were many of my former administrative assistants, women who'd helped maintain my cover while building their own careers at Horizon. "Success isn't about who holds the most power," I told the audience. "It's about what you do with the power you have." For 10 years, I played a role that let powerful people underestimate me. I could have revealed myself earlier, but I waited until Horizon was strong enough to make real change. The applause was thunderous. But the most satisfying moment came later that night, still working at my office. Maya walked in with news. "Your Uncle Fernando just announced his retirement." His resignation letter included something unexpected. It was my niece who taught me that true success in business isn't measured in acquisitions or assets, but in the positive impact we create. I regret that it took losing my company to learn this. I leaned back, reflecting on the long game I had played. 10 years of careful planning, of swallowing pride, of pretending to be small, had led me here. Horizon Solutions wasn't just successful. It was changing the way the world did business. The next family reunion would be interesting. I planned to host it myself, in the same Horizon conference room where I once served coffee and quietly observed, waiting for the perfect moment to show them who I truly was. Maya knocked on the door. "Your 4 p.m. is here, the CEO of Atomp Electronics. The company your uncle tried to buy." I smiled. "Send them in. And Maya, bring coffee. The good one. From our brand." As I stood to greet my guests, I caught my reflection in the glass. No more hiding. No more shrinking. I had built something extraordinary, not in spite of my family's scorn, but because of it. They taught me that power doesn't always look like people expect. Sometimes, it looks like a quiet woman in a simple black dress, serving coffee and taking notes, while building an empire right under everyone's nose. The tabloids called it revenge. The business journals called it strategic brilliance. But to me, it was simply justice, served one corporate takeover at a time, with a perfectly brewed cup of coffee. And somewhere, in a tiny room above a Chinese restaurant, my original desk still sits. A reminder that success doesn't always wear designer clothes or demand attention. Sometimes it works in silence, patiently building something extraordinary while the world pretends not to notice. That's the real secret of success.